Asking Pub is open 7 days a week from 11:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. and offers the best food and drinks in downtown Manchester.
You are listening to WMNHLP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA.
My fellow Americans, and even those of you who may be undocumented, I'm opening the show on a very serious note today because we are under, it is a time of great distress. We are, in a sense, under attack, my friends, because as some of you may be aware, pursuant to a discussion that was initiated on yesterday's program, yesterday's Matt Connarton Unleashed in the Afternoon, when I was joined here in the studio by Peter White, host of The Morning Show with Peter White, and of course, Jeff Scumpy Lorenz, a frequent contributor to the program, whom I also see in the Facebook live chat. Hello, Scumpy. A discussion was initiated, and it has led to repercussions beyond anything that I could have imagined coming out of that discussion. And I never, in my wildest imagination, could have predicted, could have foreseen, could have prognosticated what has subsequently occurred and the choice that we now, as people, as a people, as one people, or many people, you can use the word people in many different ways. I never imagined that we as people would be facing the choice that we are facing now. But as I sit here and speak to you now on this day, in this moment, September 20th, the year of our Lord, 2018, there is a poll. Yes, my friends, some of you may have seen it. There is a poll right now on Facebook. It has been shared to the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. You can see for yourself. You may already be aware of it. You may have already voted in it. But there is a poll asking the question. And again, never in my life did I think I would see this in the United States of America, land of the free, home of the brave, where Philadelphia, commonly referred to as the birthplace of our freedom, and Philadelphia also the birthplace of the most successful duo in the history of pop music, Daryl Hall and John Oates. I never imagined that I would see the day where there would be a poll on social media asking the question, this question, should Family Man by Daryl Hall and John Oates be banned from WMNH? I never thought this moment would come. I never thought I would see this. I see Peter White is in the chat room currently. I'm sure he's very proud of his handiwork. I also see Jenny is in the Facebook live chat. I also see Stefan Philbrook in the Facebook live chat. Oh, Stefan seems to be, as much as I appreciate his listenership, he seems to be acting as somewhat of an apologist for Peter White and the position that he has chosen and has attempted to inflict on the rest of us. There is a poll asking, should Family Man, one of the greatest songs in the history of music, that is why I so often quote it. That is why I will often say, leave me alone. I'm a family man. The irony being, I don't even have children. I've never been married. But the point is, I quote it because of its brilliance and its sheer genius. Leave me alone. I'm a family man. My bark is much worse than my bite. Leave me alone. I'm a family man. If you push me too far, I just might. And if you repeat those lyrics 3 times, this is true. G.E. Smith magically appears with his guitar in hand and goes, the song is literally magical. Oh, but no, Peter White. He thinks the song is, I don't know, subpar. He thinks the song is mediocre. I don't think he actually used either of those terms yesterday or on his program today. So I'm paraphrasing. But Peter White thinks that perhaps it's time. Perhaps it's time that Family Man by Hall & Oates be left to the dustbin of musical history. And to this I say, nay, Family Man shall persevere. Family Man shall continue to be one of the cornerstones of American music. Family Man shall continue to inspire family men everywhere when approached by a young lady on the street who may or may not be a prostitute. That is never quite confirmed in the lyrics of the song. But Family Man shall inspire family men for generations to come, as it has for generations prior, to say, when approached by a lady of the night, leave me alone, I'm a family man. I don't want to repeat those too much because I don't want G.E. Smith to actually appear in the studio and start playing. Don't get me wrong, I would love to meet the man, but I feel it would be disruptive to the show. And as a professional broadcaster, that is my commitment to you, that I'm very careful about these matters. I don't know how many times I've mentioned the People's Mayor, Glenn R.J. Willette's name on the show a few times, and then poof, there he is. So I understand the power of that. Jenny in the Facebook live chat says, I agree with Peter. I think the song sucks. The country version, however, Hall & Oates rock it. I think you simply do not understand the sheer genius of Family Man. And speaking of inspiring family men, I would have to ask Peter White this question. Why are you so against a song that promotes family man values? Isn't that interesting, Peter White? And I mean not to be critical. I mean, you know, Peter White, someone I deeply admire, and someone I love. I mean that in the most heterosexual way possible. Let me clarify that for our evangelical listeners. I don't want to upset them. That is my core audience, after all. So I don't mean to be hypercritical, but my goodness, why would you object to a song called Family Man, Peter? Is this part of your secular liberal agenda? What if the song were called, I don't know, Single Guy? What if there was a song, Single Guy by Hall & Oates? Would you have the same problem with it? Imagine if everything else about the song were the same, but it was like, come home with me, I'm a single guy. Would you be fine with that, Peter White? I think part of the problem, too, is I think perhaps Peter, he's gotten a little carried away. You know? I cannot help but think that if there were another individual in the room with him during his show that, you know, kind of sharing the power that this kind of thing wouldn't happen. I mean, let's be honest. There is a certain other person who would never let anything like this occur. You know who I mean. Of course, I'm referring to Don T. Tibbetts, but apparently he's in Florida right now. And so this madness continues. Banning Family Man by Hall & Oates. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting thought. I feel disgusted having to even discuss it here today. And I'm sure Peter White means well. But this, my friends, is a bridge too far. And let me also say this. If you are listening to this and you have not voted yet in the poll, please do so. Right now, the poll is leaning heavily in the favor of my viewpoint that no, Family Man must not be banned. It must remain for, again, I would suggest generations to come as a true hallmark of American music. But if you have not yet voted, please do so. It's extraordinarily important. We'll be monitoring the vote tallies throughout the show. I did share the poll to the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page after I was done getting over the shock and the horror when I realized that this poll even existed, that this question was even being asked. My goodness, I felt like I was at a record burning. Remember those? I remember seeing those on the news when I was a kid. People burning, these preachers who would burn these records like Black Sabbath because they thought it was evil. Or these people who thought Kiss, when Kiss first became big, they thought Kiss was evil. I even once saw a video of a preacher burning a copy of High Infidelity by REO Speedwagon because the preacher said, we don't want infidelity, we want fidelity. Family Man encourages fidelity. Or at least the idea that if you put off giving in long enough, you'll eventually do the right thing. Because it does say, at the end of the third verse, by the time he got his courage up, she was gone. That's a great strategy. If you're about to potentially, if you're in a situation where you might potentially make the wrong choice, just put off making any choice at all, and then maybe eventually the only choice left available will be the right one. See? Family Man is helpful. It is useful. It provides a life lesson for us all. Or at least for all of us males. If you're a female, you can't be a family man. I don't know if it's okay to say that anymore because we're not supposed to differentiate with gender and so forth. But you understand my point. So please vote, because let me tell you something. If you don't vote in this poll and Family Man is forever banned here at WMNH, you have no right to complain about it. Because when faced with a choice and faced with the opportunity to save the song, what will you have done if you didn't vote? You will have done nothing. And doing nothing in this case is the same thing as allowing Family Man to just poof, just vanish as though it had never been recorded. Oh, yes, it is that serious. And I don't mean to personalize this, but I'm going to anyway. You must not allow Peter White to take Family Man away from us. And again, I know that deep down he means well. He thinks he knows what's best. He thinks it's the right thing to do. And yes, I was listening to the morning show earlier, and yes, Paul Cormier, I heard you calling in, Paulie C. I heard you calling in and agreeing with Peter. And again, I love Paul Cormier, again, in the most heterosexual way possible. But I do. I love him dearly. But when I heard his conversation with Peter and his reaffirmation of what Peter was saying, I could not help but feel that there was now not one, but two traitors among us. Yes, I went there. If President Trump were to weigh in on this, he might call it the other T word. That's right, treason. Why isn't the Justice Department? Why isn't Jeff Sessions investigating this? The removal of Family Man, the potential removal of it from the playlist of WMNH. Why? Do we not have a real attorney general? My goodness. I see Ben Dion from the Weekly Dion has joined us in the Facebook live chat. The Weekly Dion, of course, heard Thursdays at 6 p.m. immediately following this program right here at WMNH 95.3 FM. And if Ben and his father Daryl join us early, or join me, well, late, toward the end of the show, but they come in a little bit early and sit in, I will ask them their opinion on this. And I sincerely hope that they will be on the side of Family Man by the great Daryl Hall and John Oates. But please vote. I will be monitoring the totals. Heidi Hamer is in the Facebook live chat and says, the song needs to die? Heidi, I am shocked. How dare you? You, Heidi Hamer, of all people. And I don't know even what I mean by that, of all people in this case, but Heidi Hamer, of all people. I am shocked. I dare say disappointed. We have a call. Hopefully someone will weigh in on the right side of this very serious matter. Yes, welcome to Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon. Who's this?
It's me.
Who's me?
I'm walking down the street right now back to my day job, and Stefan Philbrook just called me and said that I'm a traitor.
Paul Cormier, you want to ban Family Man from WMNH. How dare you, sir?
Well,
I thought you were an American. I thought you were an American.
I think listen, it's a decent song, but like I told Peter White this morning, I just love busting your balls about music in general. So why not?
So now we're backtracking, are we? Now we don't quite have the courage of our convictions, do we? I see how it is.
You know, ever since the day you told me that, what was the adjective you used to describe how Kiss were excellent songwriter? What was the word you used?
This isn't about Kiss.
They were genius songwriters.
Yes, they are, but that's a separate issue, Mr. Cormier, if that is your real name. That's a separate issue.
Brilliant songwriter.
I may have said that, yes. I may have said that. But that does not mitigate the fact that Family Man by Hall & Oates is a hallmark of American music.
Well, it could be, but you said it's their best work?
Now see? I'm glad you brought that up, because it just so happens I never said it was their best work. It would appear that Mr. Peter White has taken my words and done a bit of dissembling, if you will, perhaps twisted them to suit his own liberal, secularist, anti-Family Man agenda.
Well, I just happen to think that Family Man is right up there with Adult Education. It's just two songs that, I don't know. You know, I'm like No Can Do and Sarah Smile kind of guy. That's all.
Those are great
songs.
songs.
I said, I like busting your chops about music in general. So
yes.
So I'll go out and I'll buy you the H2O or whatever album Family Man was on.
It is on H2O. Just look for the album cover with Daryl Hall and John Oates and their very sweaty faces. They look very sweaty.
Staring at each other in a very disturbing way.
It's
nose to nose.
It is extraordinarily homoerotic, yes.
Yes.
But that is in no way a reflection on the music, and I want to clarify that for my evangelical listeners, of whom there are many.
Well, of course not. They're family men.
They are family men. Their barks are much worse than their bite.
That's right.
Yes.
And they're man-eaters. They're man-eaters.
No, they are not man-eaters. How dare you?
Well, that's right.
Dare you?
She's a man-eater. They're singing about a man-eater. They're not man-eaters.
Exactly, yes. That is why they are judging the woman as being a man-eater, because they are men, and they are family men.
That's right.
If you push them too far, they just might.
All right, well, listen, I got to get back to work. Enjoy, and no more of the Family Man. I'm all for the band.
All right. Well, thank you for your input, Paul Cormier. As misguided as it may be, I do appreciate the call.
All right. Peace.
All right. Goodbye. Well, I always enjoy hearing from Paul Cormier, but I must tell you, I'm a bit disappointed. I think he's a bit duplicitous. Let's see. Peter White says, who doesn't like Adult Education? The song is great. The song is great. I agree with you, Peter White, but isn't it interesting? when you think about it, adult education, I don't think promotes family values the way Family Man does. I think adult education actually promotes things like I can't say it. I can't say it because I'm so worked up about this. Promiscuity. That's what I believe adult education promotes. Oh, yes. And have you seen the video for adult education? Deeply disturbing imagery. It is a great song, but I feel slightly guilty for enjoying it. I always have. Stephen Philbrook in the Facebook live chat says, just from this list, rank these Hall & Oates songs. I don't think it makes top 10. It may not be on anyone's top 10. I'm simply suggesting that we must not ban the song because not everyone clearly appreciates the full breadth of its greatness. That's all I'm saying. Well, without further ado, because it is now 20 minutes past the top of the hour, and I meant for this to merely be a preamble, but I feel so strongly about this, very passionately about it. Before we move on, we must do, because, my friends, again, I can't overstate the seriousness of this. This may be the last time, this may be the final time that you ever hear, depending on how this vote goes, and that's why it's so important to vote in the poll. This could be the final time you ever hear Family Man by Hall & Oates on WMNH. So now I'm going to share with you the 28-minute extended remix. Well, maybe I won't do that. I thought about doing that, but no. I'm just going to play the album version from H2O. I can see the cover in front of me. Yes, Daryl Hall and John Oates on the cover of H2O, staring at each other, looking very moist. It is quite homoerotic, I must say. But let's get past that. We'll look past that, and let's listen and enjoy, because, again, this could be perhaps the final time. The last time. This right now, happening right now, this could be radio history. Because this could be the final time that you ever hear Family Man by Hall & Oates on WMNH 95.3 FM. And now it won't play. There it goes.
She made it perfectly plain that she was his for a price. But he said, leave me alone, I'm a family man, and my bark is much worse than my bite. He said, leave me alone, I'm a family man, if you push me too far, I just might.
I said, what kind of a man is this?
Don't forget to vote in the poll. Hey, everybody, welcome. It's now officially the start of the show. Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon, live on WMNH 95.3 FM, emanating from downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Streaming worldwide at WMNHradio.org. You can also find WMNH on the TuneIn app, so you can take us wherever you go on your mobile device. You can, of course, watch on Channel 97 Comcast if you're in Manchester, and... Oh, I just heard squealing tires outside. And you can, let's see. Oh, yes, of course, you can participate via Facebook on the Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon. No, actually, it's just the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. We will be monitoring this polling throughout the show, by the way. If you're just joining us, should Family Man by Hall & Oates be permanently banned from WMNH? Well, I think that rhetorically, clearly, I am winning this battle. 19% said yes, 81% said no. And this poll ends in 15 hours. So make sure you vote. Do the right thing. Hello to Nicey in the Facebook live chat. By the way, I didn't quite understand. Initially, because I couldn't see the whole thing, Stephen Philbrook had posted the set list, I guess, from when he saw Hall & Oates. And... or I don't know if he saw them or if he found that online, but I've never actually seen Hall & Oates live as much as I love them. Oh, hello to Ryan Gorman in the Facebook live chat. Nice to see Gorman. But I was able to see it in a message. So he had asked the question just from this list, rank these Hall & Oates songs. I don't think it makes the top 10 from a set list. What I would say to you, Stefan, is not only do I think it makes the top 10, I would put it at number 1, and then at number 2, I might put Family Man acoustic version, and then number 3, I might put Family Man audience sing-along version, because that's one that gets the crowd going. That Family Man. So that's what I would say to you about that. Peter in the Facebook live chat says, oh, great. Gorman's here. Nicey in the Facebook live chat says, the song is a keeper. Well, I would agree, sir. I hope you voted, or if you haven't voted, I hope you vote. So there you go. So we will monitor that. We're going to obviously get to some other things, but we'll keep an eye on that throughout the show. 15 hours left of voting, according to the Facebook. And although I'm never sure with Facebook if the times that they assign, if to anything are accurate. Ryan in the Facebook live chat, Ryan Gorman says, bite my crank, Peter. Well, my goodness. Ryan, that language is quite salty. I suggest you learn, I suggest you listen more often to Family Man, because it propagates good family values. And there is no there is no crank biting in that song, because by the time he got his courage up, she was gone. Stefan says, is it safe to turn the volume back up? Oh, Stefan, I don't know why you don't just give in. Just give in to the Family Man. Well, that sounded completely wrong. But you understand what I meant. And I don't mean, I mean the song. Give in to the song. Again, I want to clarify that for the evangelicals who maybe listen. So anyway, but we do have breaking news, my friends. While, of course, the Family Man debacle is our top story. Secondarily, this is breaking news. Mediaite reports Christine Ford, ready to testify next week, wants terms that ensure her safety. This is big news, because it looked like this was not going to happen. This is, of course, the accuser, who says that Brett Kavanaugh, it's, let's call it what it is. It's an attempted rape, based on her description. I want to address that, by the way. So one of the ways that the conservative media, like Fox News and conservative talk radio and whatnot, one of the ways that they've tried to spin this, in fact, I heard this going on The other night, for example, I'll just give you a specific example. So occasionally when I'm driving at night, I might catch some, although I'm kind of over him. I was amused by him for a while. I'm kind of over him. But Mark Levin, who is a big conservative talk, he's one of the really successful. I mean, I don't know if he's in the top 10. He might be as far as conservative talk radio hosts. He's syndicated across the country. I don't agree with him on much. He's very conservative, but I've always found it kind of entertaining when he really loses his temper and starts yelling into the microphone. It's kind of fun. I don't know anyone else who ever does that. But this other guy, Bill Mudd, was filling in for him. I don't know anything about Bill Mudd. I'd never even heard of him. I don't know if he's related to the journalist who I think has long passed away, Roger Mudd. I don't know. But this guy, Bill Mudd, Mudd is probably a common last name. Hell, Primus even had a song called My Name is Mudd. So there's probably Mudds all over the place. There's probably no relation whatsoever. There's probably, you could probably walk into someone named Mudd anywhere you go. But the point is, so Bill Mudd was, here's what the right-wing media is doing. And by the way, the left is guilty of this same kind of crap. So to be fair, I'm going to follow this up with an example of how the left also does this kind of thing. Beat me to it, Matt Gorman says. Beat you to what? I'm not sure. Geez, Ryan, if you ever want to come in and hang out on the show, it'd be cool to see you. I haven't seen Gorman in at least a couple of years. But Mudd was talking about how he was referring to it as a groping incident. How Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, she has a PhD. The Primus. Yes, My Name is Mudd. Maybe I'll play that later. And then, you know what? Maybe I'll play it, and I'll talk about what a great song it is, and then Peter White can be like, oh, maybe we'll ban that from WMNH, because Matt likes it, so we have to get rid of it. Apparently that's how things work around here. He probably took all, Kiss is my favorite band. He probably took all the Kiss out of the playlist. Anyway, or he and Paul Cormier conspired against me to remove it all. I'm talking about conspiracies now. I sound like the president. Anyway, so this is what the right-wing media is doing, though. Okay, they kind of do this two-pronged approach. On the one hand, they're saying, hey, probably didn't happen, right? What did Orrin Hatch say? Senator Orrin Hatch. In case any of us forget that his knuckles occasionally drag when he walks, he helpfully reminded us by saying, oh, if you ask me, this woman is just mixed up. Like he knows. None of us know. By the way, just to be clear, I'm not sitting here saying, I believe her allegations and he's a scumbag. I'm not saying that at all. I'm telling you the truth. I don't know. Obviously, we know how things work ideologically, right? If you're a Democrat in this situation, you're supposed to believe her. If you're a Republican in this situation, you're supposed to believe him. I'm an independent, and I'm telling you the truth. The truth is none of us know. That's why we want to see her testify, right? But anyway, here's what they're doing. This is what Bill Mudd was doing. This is where I first heard that phrase, groping incident. And this is what they're doing in right-wing media. So it's a two-prong approach. On the one hand, you try to say, well, really a three-prong approach, right? You try to say, well, she probably isn't credible. She's confused, right? Like Orrin Hatch said. The second prong would be, even if it's true, it was 36 years ago, so who cares, right? But then the third prong is you try to reframe it as something other than what was described. So you hedge your bets. This is what they're doing. They're hedging their bets. They're saying it's probably not true. But even if it is true, it's a quote-unquote groping incident that happened in high school. So that's part of the strategy, right? Gorman says in the Facebook live chat, Peter White tries to get security to kick invited people out of weddings by saying, sir, the guy in the brown suit isn't supposed to be here. So, Matt, that's who you're dealing with. Oh, my goodness, yes. I'm beginning to realize who I'm dealing with Peter White, aren't I? Thank you for the information, Mr. Gorman. He knows Peter very well. But, so this is what they do. So they reframe it. They recast it as a groping incident. And what is so dishonest about that is, I'm sorry, but let's assume for a moment that what she says happened. Let's assume for a moment that she's telling the truth. What she described as happening was not a groping incident. What she described was an attempted rape. And there's a big difference, right? Oh, you're not doing traffic, Peter said. There's a big difference. So they just twist what she said. So in case it turns out that, yeah, it looks like it's true, oh, it's not that big a deal. It's a groping incident. But I'm sorry, what she described, not to be, I don't want to be graphic, but just very, very briefly, she describes being held down, forcibly held down. He tried to take her clothes off. And then when she started to scream, he covered her mouth with his hand. Does that sound like a groping incident to you? A groping incident is, I don't know, you're on the subway and some scummy guy decides to grab you on your buttocks, or somebody touches you inappropriately, and they think they're going to get away with it and whatnot. That's groping. A groping incident is, groping. A groping incident is not holding someone down, trying to rip their clothes off, putting your hand over their mouth when they try to scream. That's an attempted rape. Okay? Now, so that's what the right is doing. Now, to be fair, because one of the reasons I'm an independent, one of the many, many reasons is I see how both sides do all the same stuff. Both Democrats and Republicans, they play all the same games. So I'll give you an example of how the left does this because I want to be fair, right? I don't want to sound like I'm just, because people say, oh, Matt, you pick on Trump all the time, you pick on the Republicans all the time. Well, that's who's currently in power. What do you want me to do? Believe you me, I'm quite certain that if Hillary Rodham Clinton had won the presidency, I'd be sitting here right now talking all kinds of smack about her and finding things to complain about her. I have no way to prove that to you. I can't transport us into an alternate universe for a few minutes where she is president, and you can see me sitting here complaining about her and say, see, I'm fair. I can't prove it. But believe me, I pick on everybody. I don't like or trust any of these people. Ryan Gorman says, yeah, like Ebert and Groper. Oh, my goodness. Of course, that's a reference to Ebert and Roper, which succeeded Ebert and Siskel and Ebert. Was Roper a groper? I don't know. But just quickly, again, to be fair, I'll give you a somewhat recent example of where this happened, where the other side was guilty of something kind of similar, where they blatantly reframed something to smear somebody, and it was Roy Moore, Judge Roy Moore. Peter says Mr. Groper from Three's Company. Oh, he definitely was a groper. Chrissy and Janet, yeah, he definitely groped them a few times. So remember Judge Roy Moore, who was beaten by Doug Jones in Alabama for that the seat that was vacated by Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III when he became your Attorney General of these United States. I do declare there were all these allegations about Roy Moore. About him as an adult, stories like, here's this, at one point when he was 30 years old, he was hitting on a Groper, the blue guy on Sesame Street. He was, I'm not saying that Roy Moore was Groper, the blue guy on Sesame Street, but Roy Moore was hitting on like 15-year-olds at the mall trying to pick them up, and that he actively pursued relationships with underage girls while he was in his 30s. And that's all. Now, again, don't get me wrong. Well, first of all, just to be clear, I take no joy. I take no pleasure whatsoever in defending Roy Moore. I deeply, deeply dislike Roy Moore, and frankly, I'm glad he lost that election. But fair is fair, and what happened to him was wrong, and I'll tell you what was wrong about it. Now, Don't get me wrong. It wasn't wrong, all these women coming out and making these allegations. Good for them for speaking up, assuming that they're true. You know, again, it's the Me Too era. Women feel like they can finally come forward and speak their truth and talk about these experiences that they've had, where they've been violated, where they've been, you know, whether it's rape or sexual harassment or all kinds of things, right? That's great that, you know, that's all finally being aired out. But here's what the left did that was really wrong, that I draw to a direct parallel with what, in terms of what the right is doing to Christine Ford when they try to reframe an attempted rape as a groping incident that happened in high school. What the left did to Roy Moore is they took all these stories about him being creepy and inappropriate, because don't get me wrong, again, there's no reason a 30-year-old guy should be hitting on a 15-year-old girl at the mall. Okay, that's bad. Right? I'm not justifying or rationalizing any of that. But what the left did is they started to refer to him in the media and his political opponents as an alleged pedophile or an alleged child molester. And they even took that to the point where I remember on election night watching MSNBC, and they went so far on MSNBC as to actually dropping the alleged and just outwardly calling him a child molester and a pedophile. And they still do it even now. Like when his name comes up in political discussion on television, or when that race comes up, or that, you know, they're talking about how Doug Jones was able to win an upset because it's very difficult for a Democrat to win in Alabama. They talk about how Doug Jones was able to defeat a child molester and a pedophile. And here's the problem with that. And again, I hate to defend Roy Moore because I think he's disgusting, but even if every single thing, jeez, Henry Collenbear says, I heard it happened outside Hot Gropic. Even if every single thing that was said about Roy Moore is true, even if every one of those stories is 100% true, that does not make him a child molester or a pedophile. By definition, a pedophile is someone who is interested in engaging in sexual contact with a prepubescent child. You know, pedo means child, not teenagers. So even if every single story about Roy Moore is true, he was not a pedophile. He was not a child molester. That is very different than what he was accused of. So it's not okay to say that about him, to take the accusations made against him and then reframe them to make them much worse, the same way now people on the right are taking the accusations that Christine Ford is making about Kavanaugh and trying to make them much less severe to help their guy. When either side does it, and the reason I remind everybody about the Roy Moore thing, again, I think when either the left or the right play these games, it's really disgusting. It's dishonest, and it's incredibly unfair to the people involved. So, but this is what the right is now doing with Christine Ford. They're reframing it as a groping incident. That's the phrase they're all using now. Gorman says it was actually in Manchester at the Wild Groper. Oh, my. But let's get into this, because this is a big deal that she's actually going to testify. And by the way, Trump even said the president's been pretty disciplined and measured in his response to all of this and what he's been saying. I mean, it's weird that we, shouldn't have to give the president of the United States credit for that, right? You should expect that from him, but with Trump, everything's on a curve. So, but for him, he's been unusually presidential about this. His son, of course, has been a giant D-bag, Don Jr. We talked about that. It was either yesterday or the day before. His son on Instagram, Don Jr., he posted that a picture of a piece of lined paper and in crayon written, hey, Brett, will you be my boyfriend? Mocking this woman, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, the accuser. Really, just so low rent and disgusting. But his father has shown some remarkable restraint here. But here's what's up. Again, this is breaking news. Courtesy of Mediaite, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford is ready to testify next week regarding her sexual assault allegations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, her lawyer reportedly said in an email sent to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Per the New York Times, in the email, the lawyer for Christine Blasey Ford said that testifying Monday, the timetable Republicans have set for a hearing, is not possible, and the committee's insistence that it occur then is arbitrary in any event. The lawyer reiterated that it is Dr. Blasey's strong preference that a full investigation occur before her testimony, wording that stopped short of demanding an FBI probe and suggested she is open to testifying without one. There's more here, but so I was having a conversation yesterday after the show, just briefly with the People's Mayor, Glenn R.J. Willett, who's being very coy about it, but pretty sure he is, in fact, running for mayor of Africa. It's very exciting. I mean, and he certainly got the wardrobe for it. You know, he's got those wonderful robes. But if you haven't seen the pictures, they are on social media. And I support him, by the way. I'm thinking about moving to Africa just so I can vote for him. Or maybe I'll move to Africa and get an absentee ballot and then come back to the U.S. I'm not sure how all that would work. There's probably paperwork involved, so maybe I won't do any of that. I'm probably not going to do any of that. But best of luck to him regardless. But we were talking about this and how obviously, you know, it's not really like her lawyer is saying, well, for her to have to testify Monday is arbitrary. Now, it is in the sense that, you know, why in the grand scheme of things, in the macro, would it matter when she testifies exactly? But obviously, her testimony has to be before they vote whether or not to confirm him, right? However, the Republicans, of course, want to hurry up and get this done before the midterms, because in the midterms, after the midterms, if there is this blue wave that is being predicted, and, you know, we know these things don't always work out, but if it's real, then, you know, that's going to make things a little more difficult as far as getting him through. So they want to hurry up and get it done. And once it's done, you know, whatever accusations can be, I mean, I don't think it matters what anyone says after he's once he's confirmed, that's a lifetime appointment. So, but it, you know, she did suggest through her attorney that there be an FBI investigation. Now, I think the practical issue with that is an FBI investigation for something that happened. Again, please, I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I'm not trying to minimize what happened to her, assuming her story is true. I'm not trying to minimize it in any way. I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I'm just saying, in legal terms, and I don't know the answer to this. I'm not an attorney or legal expert of any kind, and, you know, many of you listening are probably going, yeah, Matt, we kind of noticed. But I assume there is a statute of limitations here, and I assume that the FBI probably is not going to jump in to investigate something that happened 36 years ago. And again, that's not me trying to minimize anything, and it certainly isn't me trying to take up for the right wing who is trying to minimize this and sort of play it off. I'm just saying, I don't know legally if that's even feasible. So it says here, lawyer Deborah Katz reportedly said in the email that she wanted to set up a call to discuss the conditions of the testimony, including, quote, terms that are fair and which ensure her safety. Not surprising. Apparently she's had death threats, which sadly, that in and of itself is not surprising. I think she even had to move because so many people were threatening her. There is a, you know what, for anyone in the Facebook live chat that wants to see, I'm just going to drop this link in there really quickly. But there is a tweet that, and it's in the article here, that has an attachment, which is the full email. Apparently is the full email from the attorney for Dr. Ford. So hopefully this happens. And again, Trump has been very measured with his comments, saying, I would like to hear her testimony because, if she's believable, and it appears that there is in fact something there, then I'll have to reevaluate, my nomination of Judge Kavanaugh. So we shall see. But I think that the Republicans have to agree to let her testify, right? There's no way they're going to get away with saying, no, we're going to go ahead and vote, because the push was like Grassley was at one point pushing to hurry up and vote and say, okay, well, hey, she's not going to testify. Okay, never mind then. She's not going to testify. We'll move on. Let's go ahead and vote, right? But now it's like, no, she actually will. You just got to, be willing to protect her and make sure that something doesn't happen to her, because she has been threatened. So there's no way they can dodge on this, right? They have to let her testify. And if she testifies, all she has to do is be compelling enough that, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski say, we believe her, and then that's it. This nomination is dead in the water. So even though the Republicans, they have the majority, but they are they're walking a very thin line. We'll one more quick thing before the top of the hour, then we'll take a break, and I might play another little goodie for you. But this has not been the only. We haven't really gotten into this on the show, but this is not the only big story kind of this nature that's been going on. Keith Ellison has been under fire. Mediaite reports at this hour, Keith Ellison, accuser, calls out Dems amid Kavanaugh allegation. I've been smeared by my own party, he says. The accuser of Representative Keith Ellison, a Democrat of Minnesota, is speaking out amid the controversy surrounding Supreme Court nominee Judge Brett Kavanaugh. Last month, Karen Monahan, ex-girlfriend of Ellison, came forward with allegations of physical and emotional abuse during her 3-year relationship with the deputy DNC chair and Minnesota Attorney General candidate. Claims that were first made public by her son. As the Kavanaugh story has dominated headlines, Monahan was approached on Twitter as to how Democrats treated her versus their current treatment of Kavanaugh accuser Christine Ford. When asked if Democrats, quote unquote, believed her, she said the following: "No, they don't. I've been smeared, threatened, isolated from my own party. I provided medical records from 2017 stating on 2 different doctor visits. I told them about the abuse and who did it. My therapist released records stating I have been dealing and healing from the abuse." See, so it's both sides. The Democrats, because it's their guy being accused, Keith Ellison. So they're doing to the accuser the same thing that the right is doing to Kavanaugh's accuser. I mean, I say it all the time. Partisanship and ideology trump, no pun intended, I swear, trump absolutely everything. Everything. Including who do you believe? It's really remarkable. Let's see, just to finish on this, and then we'll take a break. She says, 4 people, including my supervisor at the time, stated that I came to them after and shared the exact story I shared publicly. I shared multiple texts between me and Keith where I discussed the abuse with him and much more. As I said before, I knew I wouldn't be believed, and I didn't break my silence for validation or any outcome. I did it for my own internal freedom and to stand with other survivors. I have nothing to prove to anyone. I simply shared my story. People can believe it or not. I don't need anyone to affirm my humanity. I affirmed it. Good for her. It's frustrating to me that, first of all, if you're a longtime listener and you've heard me discuss these things before, I feel extraordinarily strongly about this. I think any man who abuses a woman in any way, whether it be sexually, whether it be through some sort of physical violence or threats or whatever, is just a tremendous POS, and is not a real man, certainly. But also, the idea that that a woman would go through that and then have to have, on top of that, people threatening her, people smearing her and calling her names. And let me tell you something. I have no problem. I have zero problem. Truly. If you want to be skeptical of someone's claim and you want to say, okay, she's making this accusation, but I haven't seen enough evidence yet to back this up, so I'm not prepared to believe her, I don't have a problem with that. That's fair. But don't go completely the other way and just say, oh, she's attacking somebody I like. She's attacking somebody from my party. And because I'm an ideological partisan, because I'm a staunch Democrat, or because I'm a staunch Republican, anyone who attacks my party, I automatically have to call a liar and smear her and threaten her and intimidate her. I mean, that's just, there's no reason to do that. If you don't believe somebody, maybe you just don't think their story's credible. Maybe there's just something about them that makes you skeptical about them. Whatever it is, there's nothing wrong with being skeptical of someone's story. There really isn't. And sometimes people get smeared for that. Sometimes if you express even the remotest bit of skepticism, about someone's story, then you can fall into that other trap, right? Where now people are calling you like a rape apologist or something. I've seen that happen too. And it's like, no. I'm just saying, I'm not sure. I want to hear and see more evidence about this. I'm just saying, I'm not convinced this happened. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything with saying, I'm skeptical, I have questions about this, but I'm going to keep an open mind, because if the evidence shows that in fact this did happen, then okay. Then we need to do whatever we need to do to make sure that this victim gets the help that she needs, gets retribution for the courts, through the courts, and whatever, and that this POS who did this to her is punished, right? But that's the logical, critical thinking way to approach it. But instead, we have a country full of Republicans and Democrats who go, okay, well, if she's making an accusation about somebody on the other side, then obviously everything she says is true and that guy's a scumbag. Oh, and if she's making an accusation against somebody on my side, obviously she's a liar. That's what goes on. That's what goes on. Everything is partisan. Everything. And it's pretty disgusting. Anyway, so we might, let's see, Fred Bonig from the dailyripple.org, who joins us in the Facebook live chat, he sent me something. I might play a couple songs. He sent me a short song that he suggests and says is quite, oh yeah, I think I've played this before, actually, but I'll play it again. This is really good. But Fred sent me something that he suggested is germane to the topic. And Fred has great taste in music and always sends me a lot of great stuff. He's a radio guy. He hosts a show called the Last Chance Medicine Show. And so I'm going to play this. This is Alice Wallace. The song is called Elephants. And then after that, I'll play another little ditty for you, which will be a surprise, but will be germane to an earlier topic in today's show. So as we end the first hour, you're listening to Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon. We are live on WMNH 95.3 FM, emanating from glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. And I will be back flapping my gums in just a couple minutes. Stay with me.
Walk with a purpose through the parking lot. Keys in your knuckles 'cause you ain't got claws. Remembering when your daddy taught you that boys will be boys, gotta watch your back. sitting there drinking at the bar alone. Sharks come circle, wanna take you home. You better not play coy, better not be me. 'Cause boys will be boys and they are fragile things. And they got names for the ones who talk back and the ones who wear those clothes. They got names for the ones who say yes, the ones who say no. Well, hey baby, why you gotta be that way? Give us a smile, you got a pretty face. And there are things you do and things you can't. Live quiet as a mouse in a room full of elephants. Or don't he look so handsome in his Sunday best? He said he's sorry, you know the rest. You shouldn't really blame him, he's just a kid. Boys will be boys, don't you call him what he is. And they got names for the ones who talk back and the ones who wear those clothes. They got names for the ones who say yes, the ones who say. Well, they got names for the ones who talk back, the ones who wear those clothes. They got names for the ones who say yes and the ones who say no. Hey baby, why you gotta be that way?
Afternoon in the whole room, they're about to let you go.
I stand up here giving speeches for an hour and a half, many times without notes.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon. We are well in to hour number 2. Numero dos, or what's hour in Spanish? Hora, right? Hora dos? Dos hora? I would just say, I don't know. Anyway, I took 3 years of Spanish. I remember almost none of it, but we are live on WMNH 95.3 in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Kind of a gray, dreary day in Manchester. There's a little adult education for you by Hall & Oates. Now, that song, Peter White agrees, is a good song, I believe. He might have even said great song. I don't know. But he is trying to take Family Man away from us. The poll is still up and available. It is online. I did share it out to the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page earlier. Should Family Man by Hall & Oates be banned from WMNH? Thus far, 19% say yes, 81% say no. I say just call it now. I mean, according to this, there's 14 hours left on this poll. I say the nays have it. The nays have carried the day. They've carried the day for Hall & Oates. They've carried the day for America. But we'll see. There's still time to vote. Make sure you get your vote in, because we must not allow Family Man to be taken from us. It's just too important. Why? I don't really know. But I seem to have made it very important in my own mind. In my own head, it's a matter of great importance. 603-250-6007 is the number to call. 603-250-6007. Don't forget, coming up at 6 p.m. here on WMNH will be the weekly Die-On with the Die-Ons. Ben Die-On and his father, Daryl Die-On. You know, it just occurred to me. There are actually 2 offspring and father, or parent, child, whatever you want to say. Why is there not an not awkward way to say it? I don't know, but there are 2 of these types of pairings, these familial pairings here at WMNH. Because we were talking yesterday when Peter White was here about how on the morning show with Peter White, his daughter Abby is off and on with him. So it's Peter White doing the show with his daughter, some days, not every day. And then on the weekly Die-On, you have Ben Die-On doing the show with his father. So it's very much see, all the more reason why Family Man should remain in rotation here at WMNH, because it's such a family vibe around here. See? So, I mean, this truth should be self-evident. But please vote. There is still time to vote. You know what they say, if you don't vote, you can't complain, right? So if all of a sudden, a few days goes by and you're like, I haven't heard Family Man by Hall & Oates lately on WMNH, it'll be because you allowed it to be taken from us. Taken from us. Forcibly. Well, not forcibly. There's no actual violence involved, but you know what I'm saying. Hello to John Midas Manning, DJ Midas, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. DJ Midas, of course, host of Late Night Delight, which you can hear at midnight every Saturday and Sunday night here on WMNH. It's a great show. And, of course, congratulations to John Manning for his nuptials. He recently got married. Peter White was, of course, his best man at the wedding. And that's, what the reference is to some of the earlier shenanigans in the chat room, as propagated by Mr. Ryan Gorman. Some of the references to that. And yesterday on the show, by the way, Peter told the story about how that weekend after the wedding, he and his significant other stayed at the Red Roof Inn in Salem, I believe. And there were all kinds of shenanigans there, and the police were there giving Peter White a hard time. Just all these things going on. If you missed any of that, yesterday was a lot of fun. We had Peter here. We had Scumpy. Jeff Lorenz here. And, of course, all the shows are archived at WMNHradio.org. So, Let's see. We'll get some. Yeah, it's only quarter after. We got plenty of time. There are other things going on in the world aside from just the Kavanaugh hearing, although we'll probably end up talking about that again. I don't like talking about this stuff, but this did just happen. So we'll briefly discuss this and then move on. There was a shooting. This is breaking news. Actually, this happened right before I went on the air today in Maryland. Maryland woman kills 3 people and then herself in a warehouse gun rampage. A woman armed with a handgun opened fire today at a Maryland distribution center for the Rite Aid drugstore chain, killing 3 people and wounding 3 others before taking her own life, the Hartford County Sheriff said. The shooting unfolded shortly after the suspect, a temporary employee there, reported for work around 9 a.m. at the warehouse in Perryman, Maryland, about 34 miles northeast of Baltimore. Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor said at a news conference. The sheriff's office identified the assailant only as a 26-year-old woman whose last known address was in Baltimore County. The sheriff said investigators have not yet determined a motive, but a law enforcement source told Reuters the shooting was believed to have been sparked by a work-related grievance. The fact that the assailant was a woman was unusual, given the overwhelming majority of mass shootings in the U.S. are committed by men. Gaylor said Thursday's gun violence began outside the warehouse and then moved inside, but investigators were still piecing together the precise sequence of events. He said a total of 7 people were hit by gunfire and that 4, including the woman who opened fire, were killed. The 3 others were expected to survive, according to the sheriff. He said the suspect shot herself in the head. Wow. No shots were fired by any law enforcement officers. The Rite Aid Center, located among other warehouses in the industrial park, has nearly 1,000 employees, company spokesman Pete Strella said. The facility packages pharmaceuticals and other products for delivery for more than 2,500 stores. Police spent several hours searching the 210-square-foot building for any possible additional victims, the sheriff's office said. Governor Larry Hogan wrote on Twitter, "Our prayers are with all those impacted, including our first responders. The state stands ready to offer any support." Agents from the Baltimore offices of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the ATF, and the FBI also responded. The shooting occurred a day after a man shot and wounded 4 people, including a police officer at a Pennsylvania court building, before he was killed by police. So there you go. So again, I don't like to spend much time on that stuff, but had to mention it. It did happen, and it's terrible. I mean, geez, no matter where it happens, at a school, at your job. I mean, can you imagine being at your job and you don't expect? How could you? No one expects anything like that to happen. Actually, when I worked, I used to work at a store years ago at a mall. That was the Steeplegate Mall in Concord. And we used to have, once a year, they would do this. It wasn't mandatory, but they would ask at least one representative from each store in the mall to go to this thing where there was law enforcement there, and of course the mall management was there, and they would kind of present. They would do this presentation of what to do. If there's an active shooter in the mall, because that's certainly happened many times too. All right, well, let's get into some other stuff. We'll try to hit some quick things over the course of the rest of the show. Mediaite is reporting that Michael Cohen reportedly spoke to Mueller team for hours. I bet he did. Remember, Michael Cohen, he... in theory, right? I mean, he knows where the bodies are buried, so to speak. A figure of speech. I'm not saying anyone's killed anyone, but, it's a...
Says who?
Actually, here, let's revisit. Since we're going to do a Michael Cohen story, I haven't played this in a while, so before I read this update on Michael Cohen, let's, in honor, in tribute to Michael Cohen, let's play for you my personal favorite, and hopefully yours. Michael Cohen's greatest hit, if you will. My favorite moment of Michael Cohen when he was part of the Trump campaign on cable news. This happened on CNN. Here
Says who?
Polls. I just told you I answered your question.
Okay. Which polls?
All of them.
Okay.
I love that. That never gets old. Okay. Former Trump personal lawyer Michael Cohen has reportedly spent hours of interview time with the Office of Special Counsel Robert Mueller in recent weeks, according to a new ABC News report. My goodness. I hope, I mean, that could make someone very nervous.
I know all about flipping. For 30, 40 years, I've been watching flippers. It almost ought to be outlawed.
Yes, it almost ought to be outlawed.
When did they flip you? Tell me. Don't lie.
During that time, much of the talk focused on talk of Russia and alleged collusion. According to ABC, the special counsel's questioning of Cohen, one of the president's closest associates over the past decades, oh, geez, to hear Trump tell it, he barely knew him, has focused primarily on or maybe that's Manafort that he barely knew, or maybe that's both, or maybe that's all these other people who've been indicted. Anyway, let's see. Okay, so one of the president's closest associates over the past decade has focused primarily on all aspects of Trump's dealings with Russia, including financial and business dealings, and the Trump investigation into alleged collusion with Russia by the Trump campaign and its surrogates to influence the outcome of the 2016 election. Okay, we already know all that. Okay, the team was also reportedly interested in if there was any discussion of a pardon with Cohen. All of the interviews, which were voluntary according to ABC sources, took place in Washington, D.C. and New York. It also appears Cohen has been cooperating with state officials in a separate probe dealing with the Trump family charity. Let me stop there for a moment. I said weeks ago on the show, and Fred had called in and backed me up on this theory. Ultimately, the undoing of Trump, and his family for that matter, will not come at the hands of Robert Mueller and the Russia probe. It will come at the hands of Barbara Underwood, the state attorney general in New York, because of their investigation into Trump charities and the fraud and the double dealing, and some of this information has already leaked out. That will be the undoing of Trump and his children, except for Tiffany. Tiffany, for whatever reason, she may be the smartest of the bunch, right? Because she never got mixed up in the family business, and it's probably a good thing. But that's what's gonna be Trump's undoing. And so when I see this, he's been talking with the New York State AG's office, has he? That is what Trump really needs to fear. Because the thing is, with whatever the state of New York decides to do, with whatever charges they decide to bring, with whatever indictments happen, remember, there's nothing Trump can do about it. There's nothing the next president can do about it in terms of a pardon. And this is something I didn't prior to the Trump presidency, when talking about pardons became a common thing in the political discussions that we have, I had always thought, maybe I should have paid more attention in civics class in school, I had always thought that a president's pardon power was so vast, and it is vast, but I had thought that a president's pardon power was, that he could pardon anyone for anything. But no, he can't. A president can only pardon someone, or perhaps even himself, and that's an open question up for debate. According to the Department of Justice website, he can't pardon himself. But regardless, a president can only issue pardons for federal crimes. A president cannot issue a pardon for anything that's not federal. So a state crime? The president can't pardon anybody for that, right? I mean, in theory, at least on paper, the president couldn't even fix a parking ticket. I mean, he could, I'm sure, but technically, no. He can only pardon for state crimes. That's all he can do. I mean, federal, rather. Not state, but federal. So, whatever charges, whatever indictments happen that come out of the state of New York, and this has Cohen in a lot of jeopardy, too, there's nothing Trump can do about it. And that, I mean, if there's any of this that keeps him up at night, I bet you it's that. You know, it's not the Mueller probe. It's Barbara, remember that name if you don't already know it, Barbara Underwood. She is the state attorney general of New York, and she's not fooling around. So ABC reports, ABC News has learned that Cohen is also cooperating with a separate probe by New York state authorities into the inner workings of the Trump Family Charity and the Trump Organization, where Cohen served as an executive vice president and special counsel to Trump for 10 years. Cohen's role as Trump's longtime fixer, which dates back to the mid-2000s, puts him in positive to have a lot of knowledge on the inner workings of the Trump administration.
Says who?
Or of Trump's world, rather. His not of the administration, because he got left out, actually. He didn't get a job in the administration. His participation in the interviews was also reportedly voluntary, without any promises of leniency made by the prosecutors. Cohen has previously vowed to, quote, put family and country first, unquote. Now, why is his participation voluntary? I would guess because, it always looks better if you volunteer something, right? Instead of being coerced out of it. If you oh, look at me, I'm volunteering. Maybe you'll be lenient with me if I volunteer, right? Fred Bonig from thedailyripple.org in the Facebook live chat says, all those Manafort crimes with tax fraud didn't pay state taxes. That's right. But I don't think Manafort's... This is something I'm not clear on, and Fred probably knows the answer because he's really on top of all of this stuff. With Manafort, there is no second trial, right? Because he's been convicted. He was convicted with the federal trial, and now he's cooperating, so now they're not going to bother with the state trial of Manafort. Tell me if I have that right, Fred, if I understand that correctly. No pardon. Right, but there's no second trial for Manafort, right? If I'm not mistaken, obviously Manafort can't be pardoned for because Trump has hinted, sort of, that he's open to pardoning Manafort for what he was convicted of federally, because Fred says he pled guilty on all of them. Yeah, because Trump will sometimes say very nice things about Manafort because Manafort didn't flip technically, right? I guess. But see, even that, I'm not clear. It gets murky. This is all hard to keep track of, my friends. It's so much that goes on. I'm not complaining. It's all wonderfully entertaining, and it just kind of never ends. But let's see. Fred sent me this. Now, this is from BuzzFeedNews.com. This was a link that Fred dropped into the Facebook live chat. The Yale Secret Society Brett Kavanaugh joined was mostly about drinking, Yale alumni said. Brett Kavanaugh, Trump's pick for, okay, we know all that. He was in a secret society at Yale called Truth and Courage. Oh, well, that's a nice name. A lofty name for what was, in reality, an all-male club that one former member said more closely resembled a fraternity. We have a call. Let's grab this. Oh, I thought we had a call. There's nobody there. Maybe the light wasn't really flashing. Maybe I've lost my mind and I'm seeing things. That's always a possibility, It could happen to any of us at any moment. Let's see. The name was widely to be known to be a jab at Yale's older, more formal secret societies like the Bush's Skull and Bones, said Kristen Sherry, who attended in the early 1980s, a few years before Kavanaugh, and knew several members of Truth and Courage. All nice party guys. It was a bit of a joke, she said. The former Truth and Courage member, who graduated several years after Kavanaugh, said the group was young and loosely organized. It had no ancient tomb, and in his time, he said, it met mostly in members' apartments or fraternity basements. You can get drunk anywhere. I mean, it's college. Yale's network of secret societies, particularly in Kavanaugh's time, was mostly decades-old, moneyed establishments that met in imposing stone buildings known as tombs. In Skull and Bones, for instance, members meet frequently to debate political and academic topics, dine on elaborate meals, and listen to distinguished speakers. The club is famously alcohol-free. Not Truth and Courage, which was also known simply as TNC. It was nothing like Scroll and Key, nothing like Wolf's Head, said one woman who graduated a year after Kavanaugh and said she knew members of Truth and Courage. Quote, they just drank a ton. They got drunk. All I remember is them drinking, unquote. Kavanaugh was a member of the fraternity Delta Kappa Epsilon, according to his Yale yearbook entry, which where he also listed Truth and Courage, a rarity at Yale, where fraternity life is relatively subdued. He wrote about sports for the Yale Daily News. In a private Facebook group composed of more than 20,000 Yale alumni this week, some members have noted Kavanaugh's stated membership of TNC. Most people commented on the group have described it as informal and minor. I'm going to kind of skip down here. Let's see. Sherry took issue not with Kavanaugh's membership in TNC, saying, quote, Yale in the 80s was very sexually liberal, unquote, but with the idea that someone who had partied so liberally might take part in overturning Roe v. Wade. It is the height of hypocrisy, Sherry said. Well, my goodness. You know what's funny? When I think of Skull and Bones, I recall that during the 2004 election, George W. Bush versus John Kerry, and it came out that actually they both, not at the same time, obviously, but they both had been members of Skull and Bones, the mysterious Skull and Bones. I wonder what Alex Jones has to say about Skull and Bones. I'm sure he thinks they're like a subsidiary of Bohemian Grove or something, or the Illuminati or something. Alex Jones, by the way, I'm not going to play it. I need to see if there's a short version of it. But Alex Jones apparently in videos is saying that he's already won and he's ready to die. So he's already fulfilled his obligation to the country, and I guess his deplatforming, it's like a moral victory for him in some way. Very, very interesting. And I give him credit for really kind of seeing the glass as half full. I mean, to have everything taken away from him and to essentially lose his entire media empire in a very short time, and then to be able to say, actually, I won. And I'm so convinced that I won that I can die now and it's fine. I mean, that's quite a victory, and that's really, you know what it is. You know what it is. It's an attitude of gratitude. He's obviously very grateful for all the great things, all the great opportunities that he's afforded him. And so now, if the deep state or whoever assassinates him, he's just fine with it. So I think that's great and good for him. Good for Alex Jones. I need to take a giant gulp of water, and the Dions are in the studio. Daryl, I have a question to ask you, if you don't mind. Actually, let me get your mic up. This is very important, something that's been going on here at WMNH. I don't know if you saw the poll. Did you see the poll?
No.
There's a poll that Peter White of The Morning Show with Peter White put up asking, and this came out of a discussion that we had yesterday on my show, because Peter and Scumpy sat in on my show yesterday.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Ben's here too. Let me get that mic up, Ben. I want to get both your opinions on this because I'm very distressed. Apparently, there is some folks have this idea that Family Man by Hall & Oates is not worthy of airplay here at WMNH, and that it's not the hallmark of American music that I feel that it is. And now the poll asking, should Family Man be banned from WMNH is currently at only 19% yes and 81% no. So that's a good thing.
Right.
Because I liken this to record burnings. You know,
I don't think I voted yet.
That used to go on. Well, I hope you do, and I hope you vote the correct way, Ben. Because,
is that on Facebook?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to look right now.
This is very, very important because, look, if Family Man is taken away from us, what's next? Rich Girl? Sarah Smile? I mean, what else could be taken from us?
Man-Eater?
Man-Eater.
Ooh.
Do you want Man-Eater taken from you? I surely don't. So I hope everyone can really get. I mean, I think there's only like 13 hours left to vote, And I am deeply worried. And I know it's an easy thing for people to just say, oh, no, you know, I never vote because it doesn't affect anything. This has real consequences. Are you voting right now?
I just voted.
And what was your vote?
No.
You voted no.
I did.
Excellent.
I would vote no as well.
There are 38 votes, by the way.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
That is, yes. A lot of people feel very strongly that, you know, that this must not be allowed to happen. I feel that Family Man, because if you're familiar with the song and the lyrics, you know, it tells a very positive story. This gentleman who is a family man, he's approached by this young lady on the street who may or may not be a prostitute. That's never really confirmed in the song.
No.
But it's mildly suggested. And in the end, he tells her, he says, leave me alone.
I'm a family man.
I'm a family man.
That's a good message.
It is a good message. And I feel that Peter White wants to remove it because, and I love Peter, but I think he wants to remove it because it promotes family values, and he's one of these secular liberals, one of these godless secular liberals who, like, if the song were called Single Man, I'm sure he'd be fine with it. He'd be like, oh, it's a song about a single man living the single life. Oh, but a family man? No, we need to get rid of that. I mean, it's just it's egregious. I'm very worked up about this.
I can tell.
I am, yes.
I can tell.
I'm very well. We know where you stand, Ben, because you voted and you voted correctly. But and you said you'd vote no, Daryl. But
right. It's probably Peter's his main concern is probably that his is of his immediate marital status, because he is a single guy and maybe he wants to be a family man.
Maybe. Well, I did actually. I did put him on the spot because we did discuss marriage. I put him on the spot yesterday, and I immediately felt badly about it. But I asked him, you know, because he's married and divorced, and I'm not telling stories out of school. He's open about it. He talked about it yesterday on the show. But he is currently in a committed relationship, and so I asked him, and she was listening because she was in the Facebook Live chat. I asked him if he'd ever thought about getting married again, and I think he was a little uncomfortable with that because I put him on the spot. But
did he have a response?
I think he said no, but then he said, well, yeah, you know, it's what do you do in that situation? And that was unfair of me. But I'll tell you what, I don't feel as badly about it today as I did yesterday in the moment when I realized there was a poll asking if we should ban the song from the station. I mean, it's terrible.
That's a big move.
It is. It is. It's like when I was a kid, I'd see on TV, you know, people burning records that they didn't like, you know. It's just
don't buy it then.
Right, exactly. But, you know, people felt that these records were satanic or something. You know, I'm a Kiss fan. Kiss is my favorite band. And back before I was even into them, when they first came out, you know, you had all these people in the South who were like, oh, we have to burn these. These are Kiss. It stands for Knights in Satan's Service, which, of course, is ridiculous. But, you know, but they'd be burning Kiss records. It's terrible. That's what I feel this is like. It's as though if there were a way to burn, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if right now Peter White is at home burning a vinyl copy of H2O, which is the album that Family Man is on. He's probably out there with a bonfire. He's probably like, hey, let's just throw this in there.
He's actually up front doing it.
Is he? He's out on the street doing it?
Yeah.
Well, that really ups the ante.
He's got a barrel.
I am outraged by this.
He's throwing a bunch of them in there. Yeah.
This is disturbing, and I'm going to. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to contact Glenn R.J. Willett, the people's mayor, about this.
Oh, I thought I saw him out there too with his robes.
Was he with? Well, I would hope he was wearing his robes. He is running for mayor of Africa.
He was presiding over the services.
Over the burning?
Yes.
This is terribly distressing. I thought Glenn would stand up for America and stand up for Philadelphia, the birthplace of freedom, also the birthplace of Hall & Oates. They're from Philly.
Wow. They're a Philly band, yeah.
Yeah, you don't get more American than that.
You got that right.
Yeah. Stephen Philbrook in the Facebook live chat says, Ben Dion plays original music on his show, so I would guess he would vote yes to ban the cover song Family Man.
I play music?
Well, you have intro music for your show and stuff, and for the segments.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I made them on GarageBand.
But Stefan made the wrong assumption about it. He thought you'd vote to ban it, but he was wrong. We have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed in the Afternoon. Who's this?
Hey, Matt, Mike Doyle.
Mike Doyle, where are you on the Family Man?
Oh, that's a no-brainer. That's a keeper.
Thank you, sir. Oh, I'm feeling so much better about this.
That's a keeper.
Yes.
Peter's genre sometimes goes off the deep end. So
I know.
you know, he loves the Beastie Boys and the.
Well, I do too, but
I know.
Apparently Peter's on Elm Street right now burning a copy of H2O. I realized the cover with Daryl Hall and John Oates. They're all sweaty and they're staring into each other's eyes. It's a little homoerotic, but still, I mean
I
it's
doubt
art.
that, but
yeah.
Hey, I don't want to bring a negative up to the end, near the end of the show, but I heard you before. I actually had to leave. I wanted to call you before when you were talking about the whole Democratic Republican thing with the incident going on now with Kavanaugh.
Yes.
And we just got to be a little careful because even you made the mistake of threw out the word rape, and you got to be careful.
I
now.
said attempted rape.
That's going off the deep end.
I
from
said
where
it.
this all started.
Well, I
This
said
all
attempted.
started with some kind of he was trying to get my clothes off. Well, back in high school, let he in the room and me and you and the other gentleman in the room cast the first stone of who didn't go parking in their day.
That's
Who didn't
not
go
what was
to a
described.
party and go up in a room and
That's
have
not-
a makeout
No.
session. And you know what I'm saying?
Mike, that's not what she described. I'm talking about if what she described is true. What she described is he pinned her down, tried to get her clothes off, and when she started to scream, he put her hand over her mouth. That to me,
That's
dude,
not what she said.
that's what I read. She said.
He threw me down on the bed, and he was trying to he was attempting to get my clothes off, and I got nervous. But never was the word rape introduced till the Democrats introduced it.
That's
And you're going from. How do you know it wasn't a? First of all, we don't even know what happened. Let's start with that.
I agree.
And how
Right.
how quickly we can ruin a guy's life if this is just a Democratic ploy, because it did come out kind of suspiciously at a weird time, don't you think?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Feinstein knew about this for weeks,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they got nowhere with the Kavanaugh, and right before 3 days before the vote, oh hey, guess what? Somebody came out.
Sure.
Out of the blue, and you know, I mean, you got to admit, a little suspicious.
Of course, you should
timing-wise.
always be skeptical and apply critical thinking to these things, and not just believe or reject based out of partisanship. No, I'm with you there, Mike. Absolutely.
I agree. I'm just saying, but when we start throwing the word rape around,
what I read was very different than what you read apparently. So I'll have to go back and revisit that. Maybe I read someone's interpretation about it and not what she actually said. But I thought what she said, what she was claiming was that he held her down and tried to get her clothes off and covered her mouth and all that. And if that is what happened, that in my mind is an attempted rape. But I'll go back and look at the verbiage, and I may have misunderstood something, and if I did, I will apologize.
it's just you know what I mean, with the timing and everything. I'm not saying it's true or false.
Right.
She may have a case.
Right.
30-something years ago, that's a little questionable, and he has no other marks. And the FBI's been checking him 6 times every time he ended up being another judge.
That's a fair
They
point.
checked him 6 times
Yep.
over the years, 100% squeaky clean, and now all of a sudden, 36 years ago at a high school party, so all I'm saying is, whether it's true or false, we just got to be careful with the word rape, because that takes everything to a whole new level.
Well, I did say attempted. No, but I did say an attempted rape. But I do want. But you're right, though. That is a word that we should be very careful with. So I'm going to go back and look and make sure. And believe me, I'll be the first. I'll be the.
All I'm saying.
No, I'm with you, Mike. I'll and if.
Yeah, that one just jumps over the curb. You know what I mean? We've all been parking. We've all been trying to get a girl's shirt off.
Yeah.
And make out parties back in. I mean, you know what I mean? It just and is that where we were? And that's what she was thinking. She started thinking something else. He thought I was just going to make out with her. I mean, but then that's all one thing, and that's all up for interpretation. But once you throw the word rape in there, it becomes a whole new ball game. And that guy's got a family, man. He's done. Whether you agree with his philosophy or not, Republican or Democrat, and what he may stand for, what he doesn't. The guy's done right over the years for communities, family, for a lot of people. He's been a judge, trying to be fair. Many women have come out and talked highly about him, and then he's got children. And to start throwing out the rape word, that's all I'm saying is we just got to be a little careful with it. That's all.
No, I understand about being careful. Absolutely. I agree with you there.
Hey, good show as usual.
Well, thank you,
Mike.
Mike.
Show does. It's always friggin' stimulating, man.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. Thank you. I take that as a tremendous compliment. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, it gets me stimulated every time I listen. There's always something that riles me up.
Well, good.
So,
Apparently worked today.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you,
right.
thank you
Good
for the
show, man.
thank you for the
Talk to you
call.
later.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. All right, that was Mike Doyle who leaves us. And Mike, if you're still listening, by the way, of course, you're always welcome to join me in the studio again anytime. That was a lot of fun the last time you were here. Stephen Philbrook in the Facebook live chat says, I read what you read, Matt. This is a lifetime appointment. No need to rush. Appointee should be fully vetted. And Archie Frangudis is in the Facebook live chat and says, listening. Yeah, I'm not going to do it now because we're almost out of show. But after the show, I'm going to go back and, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts about?
I don't think the word rape was never used or attempted rape in the article.
Yeah.
But it's certainly based on her description of the events. It certainly looked that it was fast approaching that.
Yeah.
But you got to think about it. 36 years ago, high school. All
Right.
things taken in context.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So they got to look. But I don't see a lot in this.
I do want to hear her out. Absolutely. We'll take this call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon. Who's this?
It's your old pal Fred.
Fred Bonig from thedailyripple.org. How are you, sir?
Good. I just love that guy, Mike Doyle. He never gets his facts right.
Uh-oh.
First of all, she was up. She went upstairs to go to the bathroom or something. She wasn't hanging out with him. She wasn't trying to make out with him. She wasn't fooling around with him. She was upstairs. They pushed her. Her account is they pushed her into the room, and then he jumped on her. That's what they said. That's what she said. And it was. And
that's an attempted rape.
It's a whole lot different.
It is
than if you try to position it as, well, they were upstairs making out, and then he went a little too far.
Right.
That's not what happened.
Yeah.
She had no interest in being with him. Also, when you think about it, and like the one thing he is correct on, they all, what's the likelihood of a 17-year-old boy who goes to an all-boys school getting smashed drunk at 17, underage, and going way too far with a pretty 15-year-old? I mean, how could that possibly ever happen? It's
sounds
never
pretty
happened
likely
in history
to me.
before.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
and the fact that it happened 35 years ago. Yes, but the funny thing about that is like so many of her friends and girls because they didn't go to the same school. She went to an all-girls school.
Right.
And many of the girls have come out and said who went there, oh yeah, we all heard about it, and that they all did. If they said they did, then there's lots of them. It was probably in school, girls. Somebody would say, oh, you heard about that thing that happened.
Sure.
None of them were there. But then the fact that the guy who was there writes the book that says, all we ever did is get drunk. Gee, the one part she got right that there is no doubt on, that he was a drunk and that he was drinking at a party underage, which he admit to being a drunk in many other situations when he said, well, at Georgetown Prep, what goes on there stays there.
Right.
Well, yeah, because you guys all got drunk, and that's what you did. So
Right.
It wasn't like she said he wasn't drunk.
Right.
It was
right.
that he was drunk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Fred, did I get the
And
rest?
who would want to go through what she's going to go through? Who,
I know.
In their right mind.
Well,
who would ever want to do that?
That is a great point.
It's a big question.
Yeah. Did I get the other part of that right though, Fred? About so you said they pushed her into the room, they jumped on her,
and then when she tried to scream, he put his hand over her mouth, not her hand.
Right.
He put his hand over her mouth
to
stop her, and then she would manage to get out. And when she got out, she left and went home. And but she was 15. Now your average 15. I was in that time period. The 80s was the time period. I was already graduated. I was 18 in 1977. But that early 80s, we were at a lot of parties. We did a lot of drinking.
Sure.
We did all kinds of fun things.
Right.
But to say that it didn't happen just because it was 35 years ago and she couldn't remember the exact location of the house, and then to have his partner, or have Kavanaugh say, well, I wasn't at that party. Well, she didn't even know where the party was. So how could you not be at the party that nobody knows where the party was?
Right. How can he remember that he wasn't there?
Right, that he wasn't at it.
Right.
If she was,
it's a good point.
Because I'm sure, how does she know that? She never mentioned the party.
Right, right.
But the first thing he said, and that was what came out, that, and his buddy said, well, he didn't say this didn't happen. What he says is, I can't, there. I don't remember this. But no.
Fred, is
no,
your...
I wasn't beeping. That was you, I guess.
I wasn't.
Maybe it was me. I don't know. I didn't mean to, but
yeah,
it was
I thought he was
I was
beeping
sending
himself.
Morse code. It's the deep state.
Ben said he thought you were beeping yourself, like you started swearing and you were censoring yourself for the radio.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was that son of a beep beep. No good beep beep.
Yeah.
But again, nothing about that, like you just read from the, his rest of his high school and college years.
Yeah.
He was dropped.
Yeah.
Not uncommon, but it wasn't like he was this just stay at home, study. I would never be at an underage drinking party.
Right.
I mean, the fact that she was 15, why wouldn't she tell the cops? Well, because they were at a party where they're probably in that neighborhood. You got to know that somebody has awful rich parents, right? I mean, they wouldn't be sending those rich kids to rich schools.
Yeah.
So nobody was going to go get their friends in trouble by telling the cops.
That's a really good
Because he didn't
point.
actually, like you said, he didn't actually rape her, so there would be no evidence.
Right.
And she wouldn't want to get her friends in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That she was at a party with a bunch of her friends who weren't supposed to be there either, drinking, and this,
That is
there's a lot of reasons people wouldn't say something at the time.
Absolutely. Well, Fred, we're about out of show, so we gotta
You
let
gotta
you
go.
go.
Have fun.
But thank you so much, my friend.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. All right, that was Fred Bonig from the Daily Ripple who leaves us. And before we go, what do you gentlemen have coming up on the Weekly Die-On?
We got a big show this week. We have Mayor Joyce Craig coming on the show.
Oh, very nice.
So we'll be talking about, we've had her on the show before, but as a candidate for mayor last year.
Okay.
So this is her coming on as the mayor. So we'll talk about what's going on with the city. She has some events to highlight. And, we'll just talk about her goals for being mayor in office so far in 1 year, almost a year.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, stick around for that. So that's the Weekly Die-On coming up at 6 p.m. right here on WMNH 95.3 FM. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back tomorrow. Of course, if you miss any part of today's show, all the shows are archived at WMNHradio.org. And don't forget to vote on the Facebook poll. Vote no on banning Family Man from WMNH. It's very, very important. It may be the most important vote of your lifetime. All right.
Then again, it may not be.
It may not be, but we'll see. All right. We'll see how it turns out. All right. That's it for now. I'm out of here. I'll talk to y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.